Okay, hey guys, this is our first podcast ever. That was our intro that we just decided on 2 seconds ago. So this podcast is sort of going to be about sort of like two non-binary people's views on the world and things, because there's not a lot of that out there.
No.
So we're gonna talk about just today. The subject is lesbian porn.
Yeah. Porn in general, probably.
Porn in general, probably getting into some other stuff, but it was based on the fact that one of our friends sent another one of our friends a video of lesbian porn, and they kind of reacted to it sort of weird, and especially coming from a non-binary point of view, like, porn and stuff can be really weird.
It can make you feel like lots of ways.
Lots of different ways.
Lots of different ways at different times throughout the porn experience.
Yeah.
You can feel many different emotions.
Many different ways. Oh, should we introduce ourselves?
Yeah.
Our names and shit?
Yeah.
Maybe. Okay, so I'm AJ. I'm sort of a transmasc confused person right now. I'm also pan, so that is another part of my identity that is because sort of, for me, like, gender is confusing, so I don't really view people in gendered ways a lot, so whatever's in your pants or whatever you want to be doesn't really make any difference to me. Hey, it rhymed.
Shirt idea.
All right.
I'm Cori. I'm agender, and I'm pan also. Kind of questioning that recently.
Oh, yeah.
And so, sort of, I think we're both questioning a lot right now, but that's pretty much where we are.
Yeah.
So you know where we're coming from and what our viewpoint is. So porn.
Lesbian porn is not lesbian porn.
No. I mean, I knew that I was interested in sapphic experiences from a young age. Pretty much didn't want to admit it to myself, but I for a lot of reasons. Should we talk about our backgrounds? I feel like that might be helpful.
Well, okay, yeah. I mean, this is probably going to end up being like an hour.
That's fine.
So let's go into our backgrounds.
Yeah.
You want to go first?
Yeah, okay. So I'm AFAB. I was raised Catholic and I was raised as a girl. So a lot of what I identify as now, or what I've always identified as but never admitted to myself, was because I was afraid, because I was always told that that wasn't an okay thing to be. So if I ever mention my past, it's usually because I was never educated on what gender and sexuality really are. I mean, all of the sex education that I've had as a child was really heteronormative and, like, very cis-normative. So that's where I'm coming from in my viewpoint. So I'm still in, like, this weird life journey to sort of figure out, be more comfortable as myself as an adult, I guess.
If you hear weird noises, it's me closing the window because I don't want window noises in the background.
Window noises.
You know. There we go. My background is I was raised atheist with, like, very, supportive and knowledgeable parents, but I didn't really have the language to know who I was for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And also, it was sort of weird because I just thought everything that I was experiencing was normal.
Yeah, of course.
I didn't think anything of it, like, it's normal to have thoughts about kissing girls. Totally, right?
Yeah.
That doesn't make me gay, right? It's normal to, like, think that you were intersex as, an 11-year-old. Because, everyone has those thoughts,
Yeah, you think this shit's normal because you're like, well, I don't know any other way of being.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, my past is sort of like, I always, like, sort of understood what I always knew things about myself, but I just never thought it was anything to take note of.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it wasn't anything for me to be like, oh, I get that these thoughts make me this.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't understand that. And I identified as gender fluid for a long time, because well, it wasn't a long time. It was probably like a year and a half. And now I'm sort of starting to realize that, well, I don't feel like a girl almost ever anymore. So, yeah. Well, I'm also AFAB, by the way. If you couldn't tell. Neither of us have been on T or had anything, and, we present masculinely, but, when you're AFAB, presenting masculinely isn't really seen as anything out of the norm.
No, not really.
Not really.
People still call you ma'am.
Yep.
So it's kind of annoying, but it's fine.
Hey, what's up?
Hey, what's good?
What's up, bro?
What's up, bro? You got kicked?
You got kicked, bro. But yeah, for me, it's sort of been a recent experience, because you feel things and you just think like, oh, nothing of it, and then you realize that there's language for it, and you're like, oh,
holy shit,
I'm not normal.
Yeah.
Like, for me, I think a lot of the stuff that happened was like, I would feel ugly, and I didn't know why. And that was sort of the way that, like, my sort of dysphoria presented itself, is I would just get really low self-esteem, and I wouldn't know why, and I would be like, why do I feel so ugly today? And it wasn't because it was like, I actually felt ugly. It was because I felt like a dude, and, it sort of sucks when you're dressed up in one way, and you're like, usually this stuff makes me feel good, but today I don't like it.
I think for me, I've always known that I haven't really felt a connection to any one gender. And my childhood, my parents always coined it off as me being quirky. And I know now that it's not just how I present, it's how I identify, like, internally. So I think that was one of the main signals. And having the language really helped, like having the knowledge of, yes, there are other people like me that also don't feel a connection to anything, and that's good. That's okay. I'm glad that there are other people like me. It's confusing as shit, though, when you're a kid and you're like, what? Because that was my whole childhood. I was just like, oh, whatever. And it was really hard because I never really felt like I fit into any one situation, and I presented a certain way because I knew that was what was accepted. And that was what was safe.
Yeah.
And if you don't know anything about Catholicism, or at least, Roman Catholicism, it's that you really don't, there's no wiggle room as far as gender and sexuality goes. I mean, if you're not straight and cis, you're kind of a pariah, and you're seen as someone who's immoral, and, like, almost as someone who is, like, closely related to a demon.
Ooh.
So it's a little weird. And it's not okay, and I feel really bad for all of the kids out there, and they're just, like, really confused. And
that's part of the reason why we're doing this, is so that people have, a voice, a person to connect these things to that they see on the internet and maybe feel like aren't real. Like, this is our reality, and we're not making up things. We're not trying to get you to call us weird-ass pronouns, like, call me shovel and shovelists,
No.
I don't want to,
No.
I'm just trying to exist as someone who's not, on the binary, and this is just how I feel on a daily basis, and that's not something that I'm making up.
No. I didn't wake up one morning and decide that I was going to be one way. I've been like this my whole life, but it's been very repressed, and it's been kind of painful, but I've dug it out of myself, and now I feel okay for the first time in a very long time.
And I think that's, like, both of us, we sort of got to college and, like, away from, parents and high school and stuff, and we finally were like, oh, wow, there's a big world out there. But, like, for me, it was sort of like, I did things and I didn't realize that they were connected to an identity. Like, I sort of referred to myself, like, masculinely, and, like, in high school I described my style as, like, a hippie dude, but, like, I didn't connect the dots. Like, yes, I'm a cis,
Yeah, well, of course.
Yes, I'm a straight.
Hey, hello, I'm straight Jones.
I'm straight. I have thoughts about, girls and guys and stuff, but I'm a straight cis. And, like, we were sort of talking about this other thing about how, like, if you're non-binary, every relationship that you're going to be in is not going to be straight.
there's no way for any of us to be in a straight
it's
relationship.
like, yeah, like I'll refer to me liking girls as gay, but that's just because like that's how it's viewed.
Yeah.
And like, you know, sometimes I'll refer to like, well, I won't do that because like I don't pass as a dude, so I don't receive any sort of the hate that gay couples receive. I don't receive any of that, so I don't really try and claim that because
Yeah.
it's just like I feel like if you don't experience the struggles of a certain group, calling yourself that is kind of weird.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah. No. Oh. Yeah. Well, yeah. So.
Are we gonna talk about?
Well, let's have a talk.
All right.
We have a friend.
Let's call her Sally.
Sally, our friend Sally.
Yeah.
Um.
Sally is cis.
Oh, yes.
And Sally is currently questioning her sexuality, but Sally has almost zero interest in women and has shown zero interest in women consistently and is using, trigger warning for people who, you know, get triggered by the Q slur, but she calls us queer. And we're like, you don't get to call us queer because you're not queer. And she calls herself queer, and she calls.
It's kind of, here's what kind of gets my goat on it, is that I don't even use that word to describe other people. I might use it to describe myself to someone who doesn't have a lot of knowledge of other language.
Yeah.
Because it's sort of an access point.
Mm-hmm.
But I would never use it to describe someone else because it's still a slur.
Yeah.
So, you know, I would never say, oh, this is my queer friend.
Yeah.
Or, oh, that person is queer. Or this group of people are queer, because I just feel like it's not appropriate. If that person isn't comfortable with that word, I would never describe them in that way.
And I think that's a basic etiquette, you know, for the people listening who are, you know, straight or who are cis. Cis means that you identify with the gender that you were
assigned
at birth. And we've been using the term AFAB, that means assigned female at birth.
And while we were assigned female at birth, neither of us identify as female or woman,
right,
or what have you. We don't.
And a lot of people will put non-binary people under the trans umbrella, but neither of us really feel comfortable claiming the trans identity because neither of us have transitioned or have plans to transition in the near future. And neither of us experience the crippling dysphoria that a lot of trans people experience.
No, I mean, there are certain parts of my body that give me mild dysphoria, but I would never compare that to what a trans person would feel, just because it's not the same kind of dysphoria. My dysphoria isn't related to any gender, me wanting to be any gender. It's related to the fact that I have body parts that other people gender, and that makes me uncomfortable. But it's not the same thing, so I don't feel comfortable claiming that label.
And for me, my dysphoria is related to people perceiving me as female when I would like to be perceived as male. So I'm sort of figuring something about, like, things about myself right now, and so maybe that's why it will be a little bit confusing to people, but I directly, you know, I like to present more masculinely. I like people to refer to me as masculine, you know, like that kind of thing, but I don't claim the trans term because, I don't know, it just doesn't fit right now.
I don't think I will ever feel comfortable claiming the trans term because I think that would imply that I would want to be any gender.
Right.
And when in reality, I just want to be middle ground, nothing, androgynous, whatever you would like to call it. You know, all of you agender people out there might understand it, but if you're not, I would really highly suggest that you do research because it's one of the lesser understood identities, and it's hard.
And like for all the, you know, gender fluid people out there, with gender fluidity, you can feel cis some days and completely trans on others. And like now I'm more comfortable with who I am, so I don't fluctuate as much. But there would be days like where I would present hyper femininely, and people would get extremely confused. You know, they'd be like, "Whoa, this is coming out of nowhere," because most of the time I don't know, I'm pretty masculine. And Cori, you were even talking about how the one day that I did present femininely, you like remembered it because it was so out of the blue.
I did. I mean, I've known you for
2 years?
2 years, I think.
Yeah.
A little over that. And there was one day, and you were just very, and I was like, wow. I didn't say anything, obviously, because that would have been really shitty. But I was just like, okay, cool. Whatever floats your boat, you know, whatever you feel. That's great, but I do remember it because that was the only time in 2 years that you presented femininely.
Which is why I'm now considering that maybe I'm not gender fluid. But yeah, so I want you guys to know that no matter what you feel like on a certain day, that doesn't invalidate your experience wholly. Because I know when I was feeling, you know, more cis or more like a woman, it would make me question all of the feelings that I had when I had dysphoria, you know, when I didn't feel cis and all of that stuff. And I want you guys to know, like, you know, whatever you're feeling on a certain day doesn't describe your entire experience.
And another thing is, you can feel one way and present a totally different way.
Exactly.
Presentation and your gender identity are not inherently connected at all times.
Nope.
So just keep that in mind. And
I like to view gender as a square. It's sort of like a square or a cube. For me, it's a square where, you know, left to right. Have you ever seen those political compass memes?
Yes.
It's like that. So, you know, left to right is male and female, and up and down is masculine and feminine. And for me, I used to fluctuate a lot more, and I could feel very feminine and male one day, and very masculine and female another, or, you know, very feminine and female, very masculine and male. It would, like, fluctuate like that. So that's sort of how I view, like, my own experiences with things. I think that can help people understand, like, well, you say that you feel more male today, but you're wearing eyeliner, you're wearing a skirt, or whatever, and it's like, well, it's because you can be gender non-conforming and like...
And not be cis. That's the ticket,
right?
Y'all. You can be gender non-conforming and not be cis, too.
Yeah, like,
so, you know.
I just wanna shout out butch trans lesbians because you are the best. You're just the best.
You are the best.
You're really cool.
Yeah.
Like, seriously. And you guys get so much flack for, I use guys as a you know, a gender neutral term, by the way. Sorry.
We are from the Midwest. We used guys as a gender neutral term. Everyone does where we are. It's just a thing, so please try to keep that in mind.
You gals.
Yeah.
You gals are great, and you're totally valid for being gender non-conforming and, you know, female, because look at all the girls that wear pants, all the girls that wear just like t-shirts and pants and like don't wear makeup and have short haircuts. Like, that's the thing that girls do, you know?
Yeah.
And like, you know, shout out all like trans guys who still like wearing makeup and skirts and everything. Keep your hair long, because that's a totally cool thing to do too, you know?
Do it. You feel good, do it. That's the thing.
Exactly.
You know?
I mean, we're in art school. We're fine arts majors. And, well, you're an arts education major now.
Yeah.
Cori just graduated, so yay, Cori.
And that grad school train, getting that big money.
But yeah, like, so we see guys all the time that have long hair,
Yes.
or, you know,
Yeah,
are gender non-conforming, and, you know, whatever your gender identity, you can still be gender non-conforming, and that's a totally cool way to be.
Yeah. Absolutely. I'm gender non-conforming and I don't have a gender. Wow. Chew on that for a minute. Because it's true. Because it's true, because some days I just feel like I want to wear a dress and like really tall platforms.
Your platforms are amazing. Cori has these
like 4-inch foam platforms that I like to wear.
Platforms.
Like, I could kick someone and it would severely injure them.
They're great. I borrow them every time.
every time, and we just run around real tall.
Every time we get drunk, Cori takes their shoes off and I wear them, and it's so funny.
It's a good time
because your feet get sweaty. And
I'm like, I gotta take my shoes off. My feet are sweaty, and then you'll put them on.
And then I'm drunk, and I'm like, I want to wear them because I'm drunk.
And he'll run around doing all sorts of dances.
I'll like pirouette and shit.
we mention this not because it's arbitrary, but because for all of you, like, people who might not be as educated on different gender identities, we're just normal people. We don't sit around like weird robots all the time and just think about how much we hate cis people. All of our friends...
Well, I do. I'm just kidding.
Like, honestly, even though we're in art school and we're super weird, all of our friends are cis. Like, we don't have any friends who aren't non-binary or trans, just because, you know,
we're hard to find.
We're a hard thing to come across, and I like realize now, and I get it because we run into it a lot. It's kind of scary.
Yeah.
Even amongst your friends who don't fully understand and they constantly misgender you.
Oh, yeah.
It's a little bit weird, and it's kind of the worst thing ever because you care about these people and you've known them for so long.
And you don't want to be an asshole, like,
no. But then at the same time, every time they use, like, she pronouns, you just get a little, like, you make a little tick mark in your brain.
It's a little, like, ding. It's a little bit like a grating sort of feeling. Like, if a cat scratches you while you're playing with it, you're like, ooh, ow.
So, yeah, that's my...
But you still play with the cat.
You still play with the cat, and you know that these people care about you, but it's hard for them to grasp, or maybe they don't want to fully believe that you're a different way than what they previously perceived you as.
Yes.
Because even before I was out to my friends,
mm-hmm.
I never really referred to myself with gendered pronouns.
Yeah.
Or even gendered, you know, terms. Like, I would never be like, oh, I'm a real cool girl. Like, I'd just be like, yeah, I'm a pretty chill person. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, I would never be like, oh, look at me, like, I'm like, you know, queen of this, or I'd always just, I usually, and to be fair, when I say things, like, I usually use male pronouns. Mm-hmm. For things like that.
I'm a dude. I'm a guy.
Yeah, guys, dude, bro, whatever.
We have an in-joke with each other where we will call each other dad and son.
Yeah, and it switches. It varies, but
it's a little fun thing that we just do to, like, sort of validate our masculinity and have fun too. And I'll just be like, hey dad, what's up? And you'll be like, hey son,
how's it going? Dad, can we go get ice cream?
Yeah, son, whatever you want.
Dad, when I'm at mom's house, she says you're a bad parent. Like, I don't know. It's a weird. So for all of you, like, non-binary, trans, lovely people out there, remember that, you know, if your friends misgender you, it's okay to tell them that they're misgendering you. And if they do it on purpose, maybe you need to have a talk with them about it.
Yeah.
Because that's not okay.
Yeah.
I don't go up to frat boys and call them she. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And if I did, they wouldn't know their ass from their elbow.
Who are you talking to?
Who are you talking to? And I'd be like, oh, I'm talking to you, ma'am.
We should just do that. Every time that they, like, refer to us with she pronouns, we should just be like, who are you talking to?
Sir, who are you talking to?
Because that's not me.
Yeah. Like, who are you talking to? It's just, yeah, it's hard, and it's a little confusing, especially because a lot of our friends we've known for longer than
2 or 3 years
out. Yeah, I've known, the oldest friend I have in our friend group I've known for 5 years.
Who is that?
That would be Sally.
Ah, yeah.
And, you know, it's hard because you could sort of develop your identity.
People change.
And people change. And I've always been the way I am, but I haven't always been out. I didn't come out of the womb and say I'm a gender. For fuck's sake. Like, I would be impressed. Everyone would be impressed. The doctors would be impressed. But, you know.
It's a beautiful baby girl. No.
Yeah, it's a beautiful baby girl.
You just start crying every time someone calls you a girl.
I mean, you know, dreams can come true, but not in that case. That didn't happen.
Oh, boy.
I wasn't comfortable confronting that part of my identity for a really long time because...
I came out to Sally and I told her, I was like, shit, maybe I'm a trans guy. And, like, she still refers to me with female pronouns exclusively. And I'm like, dude, I told you.
I came out to Sally and I was like, yeah, I don't relate to any gender. I feel nothing about, I don't have one. And she was like, well, okay. And then continued to use she, her pronouns for me.
See, my experience was just a tiny bit worse because let's just introduce Sally. Sally fetishizes
Yes, okay, yeah,
trans
let's
men.
talk about that.
Sally told me when I came out to her, oh, cool, you'd be really hot as a guy. That was her response to me telling
Was
her.
I there for that? Because
No.
I feel like I would have like peed my pants or something.
You were
I'm
there.
kind of glad that I wasn't there because I would have gotten real upset.
And almost every time Sally gets drunk, Sally will either tell me, wow, you look really hot as a guy, or, if only you were a little bit more masculine, you would be really hot. And
I
I'm just
specifically remember the last time we were with Sally, which was last night.
Yep, 4th of July.
And you showed her a picture from your Tinder, and she said, oh, you look so masculine.
It wasn't from my Tinder, it was just a photo that
Or was it
selfie.
from, oh yeah, it was some picture, but it was in the realm of, we were talking about dating website selfies and how weird dating websites are, and that was the conversation. But he showed Sally a picture of him on his phone, and she just goes, oh, you look so masculine. And we both sort of looked at each other like a passing gaze of what the actual fuck.
Because, like, would you say that to a guy? No.
Would you look at a guy and say, oh, you just look so masculine today? Like, what? Who the fuck? Like, who are you? Well, who do you think you are? I think, yeah.
And it's just really strange, like, because it's like, one, I already kind of consider myself a guy, so saying you would be hot as a guy means that you don't view me as one now and is misgendering me.
Yeah.
And, like, Sally just really thinks that this butch lesbian teacher of hers, who is named Wilhelmina.
Yep, go for it. You do you. That's it. That's the name.
We're using the first initial and then just making up new names. So Wilhelmina is a
wonderful human being, I would like to add.
Also just so sexy.
Honestly, very attractive, but just a genuinely warm, kind-hearted person who only wants the best for everyone that she interacts with.
Beautiful person.
Just a very, truly, genuinely great person.
And Sally will constantly say how hot Wilhelmina is just because Wilhelmina is butch and looks very masculine. And, like, Sally has constantly told us that she's questioning her sexuality and thinks she may be pan because she is attracted to butch lesbians that look like men and is attracted to masculine people in general, which is, I'm sorry, but that's transphobic.
Can we talk about the men in dresses debacle?
Oh, yeah.
Let's talk about the men in dresses debacle. Buckle up. Also, trigger warning here, too, because we'll put a trigger warning at the beginning of this in post.
Yeah.
We'll edit in post, but this is another big one. If you are triggered by transphobia in general, which I think everyone is a little bit, but if that's something that's really fresh and upsetting to you, I would suggest...
We'll put a little, like, skip ahead thing.
Yeah, we'll put a skip ahead link, so just be warned if you are triggered by that. You may not want to listen to what we're about to say, so just know that.
And we are going to be using Sally's language just so that you understand how awful it is, but we ourselves do not believe these things.
No, of course not. But I think we just want to give you the raw... This podcast in general is about our experiences as two non-binary people scooting through our world.
Just scooting on through.
And we just want to give you the realest experience possible. So we'll go ahead and just put a warning that this language is not okay to us, but this is the language that, our friend was using. So, the men in dresses debacle. There is a phenomenon. That's the only way I can describe it. With our friend Sally, and that is she constantly
thinks that she's queer.
But not only that, has an affinity for fetishizing
Gender nonconforming.
gender nonconforming people who are masculine but often present femininely. And it's extremely transphobic.
Or feminine or AFAB people who present masculinely.
She fetishizes gender nonconforming people. And often
she fetishizes me.
Yeah, and I think I've heard her refer to sometimes I hear her refer to what band was the Bennett dresses thing?
Power Bottom?
Was that it? Okay, yeah.
Well, Liv goes by they. There's two people in Power Bottom.
If you don't know Power Bottom, they've been through a lot of controversy recently, but I would rather not get into that because I don't know enough about it to have an opinion. Yeah. I do like their music. It's pretty much all like LGBTQ anthems.
Yeah.
Which is great. So, we'll put that out there, but one of the members of the band, Liv Bruce, goes by they, them pronouns, and...
Okay, we'll edit it out.
Okay. Sadly constantly refers to this person as a man in a dress.
Yeah, it's really bad.
And I'm like, okay. That's not okay.
Yeah.
You can't... Oh? We're fine. It's fireworks. Don't worry about it. But you can't... Oh, what are you looking up?
No, I'm just making a note of the time that we need to edit that out.
So you can't... That's not an okay thing to do. For all of you cis people, all of you straight people, all of you who are not completely educated on etiquette to refer to non-binary people who use they, them pronouns, if they're using they, them pronouns, they probably do not identify as man in a dress.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would take it as far to say,
Sally basically, she wants to be part of the queer community, but is so ignorant and willfully ignorant about issues and pronouns and the use of different words that I'm like, you're not even a good ally. How can you be part of our community?
That's what I'm getting at. She also refuses to be an ally. She doesn't just want to be an ally. Also, allies out there, thank you. Much obliged.
Yeah.
If you're a good ally, thanks
yourself.
A bunch.
Just educating yourself is just a huge great thing to do. And if you're, straight, cis, whatever, watching this or listening to this, thank you.
Thanks for listening.
Thank you. Yeah.
Much appreciated. You've got...
Thanks for listening to our fucking opinions.
Yeah, because honestly, that's what this is. If you disagree with anything we say, whatever. But this is our experience, so it is what it is. I mean, I think we're just in a place where we have this really problematic friend that is constantly misgendering both of us, constantly misgendering other people, and willfully ignoring huge issues.
Yeah.
Huge issues.
Oh, yeah, and Sally even encouraged her, what would you call him? Paramour, crush,
lover,
I don't know, interest. A person that she is interested in seeing who is currently cis, identifies as cis.
Yeah, he's a cis guy.
He expressed some interest in, being gender nonconforming, wearing a dress outside, because, it's so hard for guys to be gender nonconforming, and not only encouraging that, but encouraging it in a creepy way where she thought it would be hot.
It's a fetishizing issue.
Yes.
With her.
And that guy, we sort of think that he might be, maybe non-binary or something.
I've had conversations with...
But he's also so problematic.
We're going to call him Harry. I've had conversations with Harry, and I would never gender anyone without their consent, but I know that he's questioning.
Yeah.
And that's really all I can say about it. I can't say what I think he is. I can't say what I have my suspicions on. I just know that he's questioning. And I know that Sally is pushing him in a direction that is not only unhealthy for him, it's unhealthy for her, and it's very fetishizing of people who are gender nonconforming and under the LGBTQ plus umbrella.
Yep. And Harry has problems too in the fact that Harry fetishizes trans women.
Yes.
And Harry has expressed a fetish specifically for trans women and specifically for porn of trans women. And so Harry is not a huge friend of ours either.
No, neither of us are fans of Harry in general. I've known Harry for a long time. He's not a great guy. I do feel for him though, because I think Sally is only confusing him more about his identity.
Which sucks.
Which is real sad. Real sad, and really, it's hard to watch. And as much as I take issue with a lot of the problematic things that he's expressed to me, I also try to be someone who is sort of a non-biased party in that situation.
I'm just opening the door because it's getting
hot as hell.
so hot.
I'm moist and like sweaty.
Because we can't have the window open because of window noises.
No,
So
it'll be
I'm
loud.
just gonna.
There's lots of window noises out there.
We have a bunch of candles going. I'm gonna snuff them all out because
Snuff out those candles.
Candles make so much heat. Have
They
you
really
noticed?
do. Yeah, well, they're fire.
New for the broadcaster.
Fire muffin.
Fire makes heat.
Fire makes heat. This just did. Friends, fire makes heat.
So, yeah, and Sally in general is just, well, back to lesbian porn.
Ah, yes, our original topic of intent. We got to in a really roundabout way, but it's time to talk about lesbian porn.
Buckle up.
Buckle up, ladies and gents, and everyone in between. It's time to talk about lesbian porn.
And hey, if you're, someone who watches lesbian porn, please acknowledge lesbian porn is not made for or by lesbians.
If you have gone to Pornhub in the last 48 hours and looked up lesbian porn, I can promise you that anything that you've seen was not directed by a lesbian. It wasn't watched by a lesbian. It was probably watched by a creepy straight guy who fetishizes lesbians.
So please and thank you, acknowledge that. Story time.
Okay, here we go.
Our friend Nancy.
Nancy.
Who prefers women over men.
Yes.
And, identifies as gay, as a lesbian woman, sent our friend Sally, who's problematic.
Problematic as fuck.
And is currently questioning her sexuality, a video of lesbian porn. Now, Sally's response to the lesbian porn that Nancy sent her was, "I like the idea of a strap-on."
Can anyone tell me why that's not okay? The only other human being in the room.
I'll raise my hand. You won't be able to see, but I'm raising my hand to answer the question. One, it's extremely heteronormative to think that lesbian porn needs to include a strap-on.
Two, liking strap-ons doesn't make you a lesbian.
Yeah.
You know what? Anybody can use a strap-on. You don't even have to put it on your pelvic region.
Yep.
Put it on your leg. I don't care. But here's the thing. Liking a strap-on doesn't make you a lesbian.
Also, another one of Sally's comments,
Oh boy.
I wish that one of them was butchier.
Number one,
Ew.
using the term butchier
Ew.
made me gag in my mouth.
Ugh. Nasty.
Number two, well, because you'll probably never know what I look like, but I've been called butch as a slur before, and it's not cool. Number two, I think that Sally, while she claims to be very progressive and in the know about all of these issues, is very heteronormative.
Oh, yeah.
And to assume that one lesbian and a two-part lesbian tango needs to be more masculine
Or feminine.
is very problematic.
Like, butch couples, you're lovely.
You're
just
great. Good
you're
job.
great. Yeah.
Keep doing it.
Good job.
Good job.
Femme couples, you're lovely. You're
You're
great.
getting it.
You're
Good
wonderful.
job. Wow. Gender
You know.
nonconforming couples, good for you. I'm there for you.
Congrats.
Good job.
Also, if you are a lesbian in a butch femme relationship, you're not contributing to heteronormativity because you're a lesbian in a relationship.
No.
Neither of you is a man or a woman, so you can't be heteronormative. But, the idea that, a straight person is saying that one of them needs to be more masculine is heteronormative.
The key word here is needs.
Yes.
The keyword here is needs. You cannot make a demand on someone else's outward appearance. You cannot make a demand on someone's gender identity, and you cannot make a demand on someone's sexuality.
Never.
No one can. Not if you're cis, not if you're trans, not if you're non-binary. No one is in the position to make demands on another person's human form and expression. You can't do it. Sorry. Next question. You fucking can't. Get out. You can't.
And like the idea that this person who is really obviously straight doesn't ever talk about liking women outside of a context when we bring it up, you know, doesn't ever bring it up on their own. It's just crazy.
It baffles my mind, not only because it's hurtful, but because I feel bad for her. I feel bad that she's so willfully ignorant. I wish that she would just listen to the conversations we have around her for 30 seconds.
Because every conversation that me and Cori have, she always just self-inserts her own problems with her own identity. She never is thinking about what we're saying. She's waiting to talk. She's waiting to say what she wants to say.
So we'll be talking about dysphoria.
Yeah.
And Sally will talk about how she's mad that a pair of pants she bought won't fit.
Yeah.
I specifically remember this conversation happening. It was before Pride in our city.
Or we will be talking about dysphoria and Sally will say, well, some days I just don't feel totally like a girl. I don't feel really girly. And I'm like, sorry, but you know, if you're just not feeling feminine that day, that doesn't fucking make you non-binary.
If you're not feeling feminine that day, but you're still comfortable with the fact that you are a woman, you're cis. Sorry. I mean, I'm not trying to discredit anyone, but at the same time...
We are mainly speaking about this specific person, and, you know, if you're out there and you're questioning your gender identity because you do feel more masculine on certain days, good for you. Like,
question the
cool.
shit out of that.
Don't
stop questioning. You need to question to get to the root of how you actually feel.
We're just venting about this one person, so I sort of want to, like, take that back. You know, if you aren't feeling feminine on a certain day, you might want to look into things, but this specific person always presents femininely, always wears makeup, keeps their hair long, does everything. She never says anything about feeling dysphoric. She never says anything about not feeling like a girl unless we're talking about it, and she wants to be part of that conversation.
And the conversation, what she adds to the conversation is usually about presentation, which, as we discussed earlier, does not inherently relate to your gender identity.
Exactly.
So it can, especially for trans people, but it doesn't have to.
Doesn't have to.
That's the ticket. And for this particular person in general, I feel that she believes as she expresses some issue with presenting traditionally, maybe she can be in the crew. You know what I mean?
She's trying to look for any minute symbols that she might be, you know, anything that's not cis or straight. She's trying to nitpick every little bit of her identity to find anything that will let her be LGBT, because she's an artist and she really loves, you know, like queer aesthetics and that kind of thing, and
well,
she's now sort of, what's the word, appropriating that community and that identity for her own use so that her art is more interesting.
I think that one of the things that I really take an issue with is she made an art piece that included the phrase, I am not a woman, I am not a man.
I am something that you'll, what was it?
Something about...
No, it was, I'm a fucking person and I'll never understand, which is a quote from the band The Garden, which was originally a quote from Prince saying, I am not a man, I am not a woman, I am something that you'll never understand.
I take issue with that because it took me, it was a very emotional experience for me to say out loud, I am not a woman.
It takes a long time.
It made me feel vulnerable and it made me feel scared, but it was the most truthful thing I'd ever admitted to myself about my identity.
Wasn't that a conversation that we were having?
That happened in this very room.
In this very room.
In this very room, in this very apartment, that happened. And we both said it to each other, and I think that was the first time we had ever uttered those words audibly to each other.
And for her to just take that quote and appropriate it without going through the struggles of someone who has to understand, I am not a woman, I am not a man, it's just kind of heartbreaking, because it's like you totally don't even understand anything about our experiences if you think that that's something you can say lightly.
You can say lightly or throw around. I mean, now I can tell someone, yes, I'm not a woman, but I still take that very seriously. That's a big thing to say to someone.
Yeah.
It's a big thing to say, I'm not a woman, I'm not a man. And in your case, I think it's more, I'm not a woman, but it's still a big thing to say.
Yeah.
It's a big thing to say. It's very important. And it's also, it's kind of a special, I'm not trying to put more importance into it than it needs, but it's sort of like,
it's cathartic.
It's cathartic. It's very raw and emotional, and it's especially admitting it for the first time.
Yes.
So to see, for what we know, this cis straight person to appropriate that language
and use it so lightly.
And use it very lightly.
She's not taking it seriously as a heavy thing at all.
It was really it was upsetting, and it also just made me very sad.
Yeah.
It made me really sad. I think that's the right emotion. It was almost...
well, because it shows that she has zero understanding of what we go through. It shows just how ignorant she is if she takes it that lightly.
I think that a lot of the reason, which is, again, totally bonk, a lot of the reason why she hasn't addressed me in any different way or really brought to attention how I've acted is because I haven't changed presentation much. I cut my hair off, but I did that a lot anyway. I did that my freshman year. I did it pretty recently. I haven't really changed presentation much. And I think that for her, that means that I'm
the same.
The same. And I am the same. I'm the same human being, but I don't identify as a woman anymore. I did.
Yeah.
Because that was what I knew.
Mm-hmm.
But now I have the language and I have the understanding and the self-actualization to not lie to myself anymore.
And I think the reason why we're trying to talk so much about Sally and what she does and what she does wrong is because we're trying to give you concrete examples of what isn't okay.
Because I think a lot of people like us have friends like Sally.
Yeah.
And it's important to know that
you're not wrong for feeling bad about the stuff they're saying.
And you're not wrong, and you're not any less of yourself.
Yeah.
You're not any less of yourself for not confronting this person either. Because I think we both kept a pretty level head when we had every right to be like, no, you're misgendering. No, what you're saying isn't okay. No, what you're saying is problematic. We could have done that, but I think we've both pretty much kept our mouths shut because it's hard to know what to say in the moment. It's a very emotional thing when someone looks at you and calls a trans girl a guy in a dress.
Oh, Jesus, yeah.
Like, you're kind of caught off guard.
It's shocking.
So I just want to let everyone who's listening know that if you do have a friend like Sally, it's okay to not know what to say sometimes.
And it's okay to still be friends with someone if they're problematic.
And it's also not your responsibility inherently to educate them.
Exactly.
You can let them know that what they're saying is, fucked up.
And I just want to give you guys an example of the extent of her problematic behavior. We were going to Pride. And we both had shirts that were the non-binary pride flag colors. And we were both sitting there wearing our non-binary flag shirts. And she asks us, she's like, what, are you guys trans or something? Do you guys want me to change your pronouns? And laughs about it like it's a joke.
And then looks at AJ and says, what's your pronoun?
No, what
was
do you
it?
guys have, like, well, do you guys want me to change your pronouns?
She looked at you specifically and said something about, and didn't give you a chance to answer.
I hesitated for a moment because that's a big question, asking someone their pronouns.
Especially, like, out of the blue.
Right
like,
out of the blue.
We were talking about something totally arbitrary, like, oh, I hope they have this there, or I hope they have some kind of something there, and I think we were wondering if they served alcohol. I think that's what we were wondering.
And you know,
she just comes out, oh, are you guys trans or something?
What are your guys' do you guys have different pronouns? And then, like, we both are sort of taken aback for a second.
I just sort of sat there with my mouth open. You were just kind of like,
Yeah, I was like, and then Sally goes, well, you're not answering right away. Like, what does that mean? And I'm just like, I literally, my first instinct was just to say, like, oh, I'm high. Because when you're confronted by someone who's that, like, aggressive about that, you know, you want to, like, you get in defense mode.
You do, because you want to just be like, no, because I think that's what we both ended up doing anyway.
Yeah, we both said no. Because, you know, when you're confronted by someone who asks you that in, like, a provocative and argumentative way, you're gonna say no. That's why people stay in the closet. Like, are you gay or something? You're gonna say no.
Because if she would have approached it differently and asked, oh, what do the colors on your shirt mean?
Yeah.
We probably both would have been like, oh, it's the non-binary flag. Non-binary means that you don't identify as a man or a woman.
We would have explained.
I identify as agender, and I would have explained what that meant, and I would have explained that my preferred pronouns are they, them, but I'm not really bothered by gendered pronouns either because I don't have an attachment to them.
But what she said was, oh, are those the trans flag pride colors? Are you guys trans? Would you like me to call you different pronouns or something? And then got, like, aggressive with me and was like, why are you hesitating? And I was just like, wow, you asked that without understanding, like, we can't answer that right away.
It kind of is odd, too, because we both use each other's preferred pronouns in front of Sally.
Yeah.
And she doesn't catch on, or maybe she doesn't want to. I find it hard to believe because I haven't referred to you with she, her pronouns since you told me that wasn't your preferred pronoun.
Yeah.
And the same with me, so that's been a long time.
That was like the I'm not a woman chat we
That
had.
was the I'm not a woman chat.
Yeah, we
so
started
like,
using different pronouns.
That was a long while ago, and nothing has changed.
I use they, them pronouns for Cori in our group chat that we have with all of our friends, like typed out for people to reference. And they still keep using she, her.
Which, again, I don't experience the same level of discomfort that you do with she, her, because
you're in the middle.
Yeah, I'm in the middle, so gender pronouns are just like, what? You know, I can kind of just be like, whatever, you can call me whatever you want, but my preferred pronouns are they, them, because they're inherently not gendered, and I'm most comfortable with that.
And, like, also, because she fetishizes gender nonconforming people to such a huge extent, I don't really feel comfortable coming out to her as not using she, her pronouns, because I feel like that will just make her go like, ooh, you know?
Yeah, I think that that's a really good point to make. It's just interesting to me because whenever we come to get you, I'll say like, oh, I'm gonna text AJ and let him know we're here. Like, let him know that we are here. And she'll just be like, okay.
Not even understanding.
And I'm like, are you mentally present? Like, that's what I'm confused about. Like, are you here right now? Like, are you just choosing to just not listen to what I'm saying? I don't know. And then it's another thing. You're going to run into this. Trust me, friendos. If you are anything but cis and straight, you're going to run into this kind of person, especially if you are artistically inclined or any profession of the arts, philosophy. You're going to run into people who say, I just don't understand why you have to label yourself. So I think that might be something we should tackle. We might break this podcast up, y'all. Yeah. We might break it up a little bit, but that's okay.
We could do a second one after this.
Okay.
But yeah, like you're going to run into someone who thinks that labels are stupid, who is straight,
Who is
who
cis?
is cis, and thinks that labels are stupid and you shouldn't feel like you have to label yourself. And I'm like, me understanding that being gender fluid is a thing helped me understand that I wasn't faking my experience.
It validates you to a certain extent, and it also gives you the language to describe how you feel
Yeah.
to people. So before I knew what agender was, I think or even what non-binary was,
Yeah.
I think I sort of just assumed that I had a problem.
Mm-hmm.
That I was weird because I couldn't connect to anything. I felt a disconnect from, woman, and then I was like, well, maybe I should be more masculine, but I also felt a disconnect from the idea of being a man. So to have that language to describe to someone, I don't feel any connection to any gender, and that's okay. That's what I am. There are other people like me. We're real people. We have lives. We're functioning in society. And, we're just here to have a good time.
Yeah.
That's...
And most people who are non-binary, who are trans, will not be aggressive with their pronouns. We might correct you, and if you constantly misgender us, we're gonna get mad, because imagine if you were misgendered.
Imagine cis people. Hang with me for a second. If you're out there, I don't know, but let's say you're Brad.
Yeah.
You're Brad.
You're a frat bro.
You're a 20-something frat bro. You're king of the frat house. And say I come up to you on the street. Say my gay ass comes up to you on the street, and I look at you and I say, "Oh, hi, ma'am."
Yeah.
Would you correct me? Would you say, "Ma'am, who are you talking to?" Or would you say, "I'm not a ma'am. I'm a sir." You know what I mean? Like, wouldn't you correct someone?
Exactly. And that's how most people will react. They'll be like, well, no, this is what I prefer. And if you keep doing that, of course someone's gonna get annoyed, because it's like if your name's, if your name is June and people keep calling you Jan, you're gonna get mad. You're gonna be like, my name's June. My name's fucking June. Okay? It's what's the word? Impolite.
It's impolite, and I think
it shows you don't care.
I'd also like to sort of focus in on if there's anyone out there in a position of authority, like a teacher or a doctor or anything like that. If you're in a position of authority, as someone who is an aspiring educator, it is a good practice to ask someone what their pronouns are.
Yes.
Even if they're very obviously cis.
Yeah.
It is so important, because if you ask the obviously cis people what their pronouns are,
it normalizes
it. So please, get in the habit. It doesn't have to be weird.
Yeah.
Just be like, "Oh, it's nice to meet you." And then if you get in a conversation and you talk to that person, and it's a good habit to get into. Yes. Guys, it really is. Like, it's a good habit to get into.
And I'm not out. So, I don't correct people even when they use she, her pronouns, because I don't really get mad about that kind of stuff. It's grating, yeah, but I don't get mad about it.
I think the fear of being fully out, at least for me, outweighs the annoyance that comes with getting misgendered.
Yes, because, okay, cis people, if you misgender someone, don't make a big deal about apologizing about misgendering someone. Just correct yourself and move on, because it's embarrassing to us. It's embarrassing to everybody in the room.
Don't throw a huge pity party for yourself. Just say, "Oh, my bad." Move on.
So if it's like, "Oh, well, she was saying," or if you're gonna, or you don't even have to say sorry, you can just go, as she was saying. Just correct yourself.
Correct yourself and move on. Don't make a big deal out of it, because that makes everyone in the room feel weird. I don't care who you are. I've been in situations where a friend misgenders a friend, and they made a big deal out of it.
It's so uncomfortable.
It made me feel like I wanted to just shrivel up into a raisin and fall onto the floor. Like, I cannot describe, like, it's like when
secondhand embarrassment.
It's like when someone makes a big deal about their order being wrong at a restaurant, and you're like at the table with them.
Yes.
It just makes you embarrassed.
Yes.
So don't be that guy. Don't be that gal. Don't be that human being.
And we're telling you this because I know that a lot of people just don't know. And yeah, you're going to feel bad about misgendering someone. So yeah, you're going to want to apologize. But, this is just etiquette that we're trying to share to you as people who don't really have a voice in, mainstream media.
Yeah.
So yeah. I think this would be like a cool place to wrap up since we hit the hour mark.
Yeah, we'll wrap up in an hour and we'll just start a new one. We'll take a break, pee, get drinks, whatever. So yeah, thanks for listening. If you listened, if you made it this far,
congrats.
Thanks. If you fell asleep and you're now waking up, welcome to the party. It's over. You missed it. Good night. Go back to bed. But yeah, we'll probably do a few more of these because I think that we have good things to talk about. I think non-binary folks are genuinely underrepresented.
Yeah.
And I think this can also be an educational opportunity for all of you people who maybe aren't in the same umbrella as us, but would like to learn. Or maybe you have a friend who's non-binary. Maybe you have a kid who's non-binary. Maybe you have a parent or a loved one who is non-binary.
Also, parents who are supportive of trans and non-binary kids, can I just say, thank you. Thank you for letting your kids express themselves. And I'm seeing people who are younger and younger, be able to express themselves. Thank you.
Thank you for letting your kids be themselves. So thank you for letting your people be themselves.
Yeah, so thanks for listening. We hope you learned a lot. We hope you cringed with us at things that, our friend was saying.
Creepy and weird.
If you didn't understand that those things were creepy and weird, we hope you now understand that you were being creepy and weird. But that's okay, because now you probably won't do it again.
Yeah, hopefully you know that, life is a whole learning experience. And we all have things to learn.
So this was our podcast on lesbian porn. We hope you join us for our next podcast, which is probably going to be about some topic we haven't decided yet and be just as rambly and just as weird.
All right, thanks. Bye.